This is our deck dinner of January 25th. I've made some pizzas. I didn't make the crust. I just used pizza buns, and then I put some pesto on it, and some spinach, and minced up garlic mixed with shiitake mushrooms, and red onions, and artichoke hearts, asparagus, and then I put some fresh sliced up grape tomatoes on top once that was done. And we're eating some Kalamata olives on the side. I'm just having kombucha and just the peaches with the baby bananas and kiwi. And James's is a little bit different. His, I've made a kind of, well, you know this cookie that I made him earlier, probably a month ago. I've had them in the freezer, and I baked up some of the crumbs to make like I don't know, what's that called? Like I don't know what that's called, that appley crummy stuff that people eat. Anyway, so I baked up some of the cookies to make crumbs, and then I put that in, and then I put eggnog in it, and the peaches and the banana and the kiwi. So it's the same, except his has this cookie mix, which had a lot of coconut oil in it, and that fiber with the whatever, that fiber powder that I bought that I didn't like. So I turned it into cookies. Don't remember what I called that, but anyway, he likes it more baked than not, but whatever. So he's also having the kombucha and the so as you can see from this ingredient list, if you can see that ingredient list, the buns I could really do better if I made my own base to this pizza. So I'm going to have to work on that, because I would like James to have healthiest food as I can make for him. So there's that. I've asked him to come out a long time ago. I don't know what he's up to, but he should be coming out eventually. Guess in the meantime, I'll eat the pizza. We'll see what he thinks anyway. I'm probably going to get it all over myself because I'm not very good at eating. I wear more of it than I probably should. That's the thing. I can't make a crust that's very good. I know this isn't healthy, but boy does it ever taste good. What do you think of dinner?
That looks good already. Probably it smells good, except it's a little cool. Carry smell. Kombucha?
Well, actually, in that, what was that called? Gastrophysics book that I was reading? He was talking about how cold diminishes your sense of taste.
Taste as well. Yep.
So you're onto something there. So would you like me to read the chapter?
Sure, yeah.
Because I brought the book out.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me how your dinner is. So I'll read to you again. You can eat. So this is chapter 4.
won't be able to read all of it because
it's the big one?
Yeah, exactly right.
So you've looked at it already, of course?
Well, I've gone through not all of the book, but all the chapters. Yeah.
Okay. Ascension Day, June 4th, 1943. Thank you very much for your letters. They're always too short for me, but of course I understand. It's as though the prison gates were open for a moment and I could share a little of your life outside. Joy's something we can do with very badly here. It's such a serious place. No one ever laughs. It seems to get even the warders down. Today is Ascension Day, and a day of great joy for all who can believe that Christ rules the world and of our lives. My thoughts go out to all of you, to the church and its services from which I have been cut off so long. Nor do I forget those unknown people in this house who are bearing their fate in silence. I find such thoughts as these a good antidote against thinking too much of my own hardships. It would be wrong of me, and most ungrateful, to give way to the temptation. I have just written a bit more of my essay on Zeitgefühl.
So the feeling of time. So how time passes.
I enjoy writing it very much. When I write from personal experience, I find it flows easily from the pen, and it helps me to get it off my chest. Thank you for sending Kant's Anthropology, Papa. I hadn't read it before, and I've got all through it now. Much of it was interesting, but I think his psychology is too rationalistic and rococo, and there are many phenomena which it simply ignores. Can you send me something on the subject of memory, its various forms and functions? It's a topic one is naturally very interested in here. I enjoy Kant's opinion about smoking as a means of solitary amusement. I'm awfully glad to hear you are reading Goethe. You will certainly like his Wanderrugen just as much. For serious reading, I read here...
It's just wandering. That's all it means in English, wandering. Yeah.
Allhorn's Geschichte Christlichen
Der christlichen Liebestätigkeit. So that's history of the...
with much enjoyment, but
Christ.
Possibly not as much as I got, just trying to read that.
Just the title. That's the history of the Christians' activity of love, something like that.
It reminded me of the church history we learnt in whole seminar. I read some Stifter almost every day. The intimate life of his characters is so old-fashioned, of him only to depict sympathetic characters. Does me a lot of good in this atmosphere here, and guides one's thoughts to the things that really matter in life. In every way, life in prison makes one return to the simplest things in life. That explains, for instance, why I had troubles with that too. No, nothing. Why I have found it impossible to get along with Rilke. Though I wonder whether one's understanding is not affected by the restrictions under which one has to live. Whitsunday, June 14, 1943. Well, Whitsun is here, and we are still separated from one another, yet it is quite a special way. A feast of fellowship. When I heard the church bells ringing this morning, I felt how I should have loved to go to church, but instead I followed St. John's example on the Isle of Patmos and held a nice little service of my own. Hardly felt lonely at all, for I was quite sure you were with me, and so were all the congregations with whom I have kept Whitsun in previous years. Every hour or so since yesterday morning I've been repeating to myself the words, "Thou art a spirit of joy, and grant us strength and power." These words are a great comfort from Paul Gerhardt's Whitsun hymn, which I love so much. And then the words, "If thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small," from Proverbs 24. And God gave us not a spirit of fearfulness, but of power and love and discipline. From... How do I even say this stuff?
Okay, where is it?
How do I say that?
2 Timothy, verse 1.
Okay, so that's how I say that?
Yep.
The strange story of the first Whit Sunday with its miraculous gift of tongues, has once more provided a good deal of food for thought. At the Tower of Babel, all the tongues were confounded, and as a result, men could no longer understand one another, as they all spoke different languages. This confusion is now brought to an end by the language of God, which is universally intelligible, and the only means of mutual understanding among men. And the church is the place where that miracles happen. Truly, these are noble and inspiring thoughts. All his life, Leibniz toyed with the idea of a universal script consisting not of words, but of self-evident signs, in which he hoped every conceivable idea might be expressed. In this way, he hoped that all the divisions in the world of his day might be healed. It's a sort of philosophical reflex of the Pentecost story. Once again, all is quiet here, except for the tramp of the prisoners pacing up and down in their cells, and how comfortless and unwhitson-like some of their thoughts must be. If I were prison chaplain here, I should spend the whole time from morn to night on days like this, visiting the prisoners in their cells. What a lot would happen then. You're all waiting like me, and I must admit I had a sort of unconscious feeling that I should be out of here by Whitsun, although on the conscious level I'm always telling myself not to pin my hopes on any definite date. Tomorrow I shall have been here 10 weeks. As mere laymen, little did we dream that temporary confinement would be so long as this. It's a great mistake to be so ignorant of legal affairs as I am. It brings home to one what a different atmosphere the lawyer must live in compared to the theologian. But that's another salutary lesson, and there's a proper place for everything. All we can do is to trust they are making every effort to get things cleared up as quickly as possible. So we must try hard to be patient and not get bitter. Fritz Reuter put it very well. No one's life flows on such an even course that it does not sometimes come up against a dam and whirl round and round, or somebody throws a stone into the clear water. Something happens to everyone, and he must take care that the water stays clear and the heaven and earth are reflected in it. When you've said that, you have really said everything. My essay on Zeitgefühl is practically finished. I'm going to let it simmer for a while and see what it looks like later. It is Whit Monday, and I was just sitting down to a dinner of turnips and potatoes when the parcel you sent me by Ruth as a present for Whitsun arrived. Such things give me greater joy than I can say, although I'm utterly convinced that nothing can break the bonds between us. I seem to need some outward token or sign to reassure me in this way. Material things become vehicles of spiritual realities. I suppose it's rather like the need felt in all religions for sacraments. June 24, 1943. What a blessing it is in such times as this to belong to a large and closely knit family where each trusts the other and stands by him. I often used to think when pastors were sent to prison that it was easier for those who were unmarried, but I had no idea then what the love of wife and family could mean in the coldness of prison life, and how in just such times of separation the feeling of belonging together through thick and thin is actually intensified. Some letters have just arrived, for which I thank you very much. From what you say about the strawberries and raspberries of school holidays and plans for travel, I begin to feel summer has really come. One hardly notices here the passing of the seasons. I'm glad the weather is so seasonable. Just recently I discovered a tomtit's nest in the courtyard with 10 young. I enjoyed going to look at it every day until somebody went and destroyed the lot. To think that anyone could be so cruel. Some of the tomtits were lying dead on the ground, poor things. There is also a small anthill and some bees in the lime trees. These things add a good deal of enjoyment to my walks in the courtyard. I often think of the story of Peter Bam, who lived on a beautiful island where he met all sorts of people, good and bad. One night, however, he had a nightmare and dreamt that the day might come when the whole lot would be obliterated by a bomb. But all he could think of was what a pity it would be for the butterflies. Prison life brings home to a man how nature carries on its quiet, carefree life quite unconcerned, and makes one feel almost sentimental towards animals and plant life, except for flies. I can't work up any sentiment about them. The prisoner finds compensation for the lack of warmth and cordiality in his surroundings in an exaggerated sentimentality. When this happens to me, I find it is a good thing to call myself to order with a cold shower of sobriety and humor. If I didn't do this, I should be completely knocked off my balance. I believe it's just here that Christianity, rightly understood, can help immensely. All this will be no news to you, Papa, with your long experience of prisoners. I'm not sure what exactly prison psychosis, as they call it, is, though I have a pretty shrewd idea, so I'm leaving off at July 3rd, 1943. I guess that's enough for now. And what do you think of the pizza?
It's good.
Okay, good.